Part 1. The Beginning. I have always believed that love does not come loudly, like a storm that breaks the silence of the night. Sometimes it arrives softly, like the whisper of waves on a quiet shore, too delicate to notice at first, yet strong enough to change everything. When I first met him, I was not looking for anything. Life felt heavy, and my days passed in a quiet routine, almost like I was walking through a dream where nothing really touched me. I worked, I read, I sat by the window in the evenings, watching the city lights. Everything was ordinary. Everything was safe. And then, one autumn evening, he appeared. It was raining that night. I'd forgotten my umbrella, and the cold drops soaked my hair, slid down the back of my neck. I hurried along the street, clutching my coat, when suddenly someone stepped out of a small cafe doorway, holding out an umbrella toward me. "Here," he said softly. His voice was warm, steady, though we were strangers. I hesitated. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The rain falling, the lights reflecting on the wet pavement, his face half-shadowed, half-lit by the street lamp. "Take it," he insisted gently, as if he had been waiting for me. I accepted the umbrella, murmuring my thanks, and he smiled, not quickly, not politely, but in a way that seemed to reach something inside me. It was the kind of smile that stays, even when you look away. I do not know why I lingered. Perhaps it was the warmth of the cafe behind him, glowing against the darkness of the rainy night. Perhaps it was the way his eyes held mine, steady and calm. Or perhaps, without realizing it, I was already falling into something much deeper. "Come inside," he said after a moment. "It's warmer here." I should have left. I should have walked on with the umbrella and gone back to my quiet, safe life. But instead, I followed him into the cafe. Inside, the air was filled with the soft smell of coffee and cinnamon. The rain pattered against the windows, and the yellow light wrapped the room in a gentle glow. We sat at a corner table, and time seemed to slow. He told me his name was Adrian. His voice was low and calm, every word measured, as if he chose them carefully. I found myself listening to him as though his words were music. I told him my name too, though I felt it sounded different when he said it, as if he gave it more meaning than it had ever carried before. We spoke of simple things at first: books, music, the city. But beneath every sentence, there was something else, something unspoken, pulling us closer. When I finally stood to leave, the rain had stopped. I tried to give the umbrella back, but he shook his head. "Keep it," he said softly, "so you'll remember tonight." And I did. That night, I could not sleep. I kept replaying the sound of his voice, the calm way he looked at me, the gentle kindness of a stranger who suddenly felt like something much more. It was the beginning. I didn't know it then, but that single rainy evening was the moment my world quietly shifted, and though I could not see the future, though I could not imagine the shadows that would one day fall over us, I felt something awaken inside me. Something like hope. Something like love. I told myself it was nothing, just a coincidence, just a kind gesture from a stranger. But the truth is, I couldn't forget him. His presence lingered in my thoughts, like the faint scent of rain that stays on the air long after the storm has passed. The next evening, I walked past the same cafe again, almost without meaning to. My heart beat faster as I neared it, but of course, he wasn't there. The windows glowed warmly, filled with people's quiet conversations, yet none of them belonged to him. I felt foolish for even hoping. Still, I returned. The following night, and the night after that. Each time, I pretended to myself that I was simply walking that way, but deep inside, I knew the truth. I was waiting. On the fourth evening, When I had almost convinced myself to stop searching, I saw him. He was seated at the same table where we had spoken, a book in his hands, his brow slightly furrowed in concentration. Something inside me stirred, relief, joy, fear. I stepped closer, hesitant, but then he lifted his eyes and smiled, that same gentle smile that seemed to recognize me before I had even spoken. "You came back?" he said, as if he had been expecting me all along. And in that moment, I realized something. He had been waiting too. He closed his book and looked at me with calm eyes. "I thought maybe you wouldn't come back," he said. I sat down slowly, feeling shy, but also warm inside. "I wasn't sure," I whispered, "but I wanted to." He smiled again, and for a while we just listened to the sound of rain on the windows. It felt quiet, safe, as if the world outside no longer existed. We sat together in silence for a long time, but it was not uncomfortable. The cafe around us was full of voices, laughter, the clinking of cups, but between us there was a stillness that felt almost sacred. I watched the way he held his cup of coffee, the way his fingers tapped lightly against the porcelain as if he was lost in thought. And when his eyes met mine again, I felt a quiet spark inside me, small, but strong enough to reach into my heart. "Do you often come here?" I asked softly. My voice sounded too careful, but I needed to say something, to break the spell of silence. "Sometimes," he replied. "It feels like a safe place, a corner of the world where nothing bad can reach me." I nodded. I understood that feeling. I had been searching for a place like that my whole life. Not just a cafe, but a person, a presence, where I could rest without fear. I did not know if Adrian could be that person, but for the first time in years, I wanted to believe it was possible. As the hours passed, the rain outside grew lighter, until only soft drops remained on the glass. He told me little things about himself, that he loved to read late into the night, that music always calmed him, that he often walked alone just to watch the city breathe. His words were simple, yet when he spoke, they felt important, like secrets he chose to share only with me. When I finally stood up to leave, the night was clear, the streets shining after the storm. He walked me outside, his steps unhurried, as if he wanted to stretch every second. "Will I see you again?" he asked. His voice was quiet, but in it I heard something deeper, something almost fragile. "Yes," I answered without thinking. "I think you will." And that was the moment I knew. This was no longer a coincidence. Something had begun, and I could no longer stop it. The following days felt different. The world around me looked the same streets, the same buildings, the same quiet evenings by the window. But inside me, something had changed. It was as if a small light had been lit, and no matter how ordinary my days appeared, I carried that light with me. I found myself walking past the cafe more often, not because I needed coffee, but because I wanted to see him. Each time I pushed the door open, my heart beat faster, uncertain whether he would be there. And when I saw him sitting by the window, a book resting in his hands, it felt like the air itself grew warmer. "Hello," he would say with that calm smile of his, as if my presence was not a surprise, but something natural. And I would sit down, pretending to be casual, though inside I was trembling with a happiness I could not quite explain. We spoke of simple things, of books, of the city, of the small details that most people overlook. Yet every word seemed to carry weight. Every look held meaning. Sometimes we sat without speaking at all, letting the quiet wrap around us like a soft blanket. And in those silences, I felt closer to him than I had ever felt to anyone. One evening, as we walked together after leaving the cafe, I asked, "Why did you give me your umbrella that night?" He looked at me with a thoughtful expression, his steps slow. "Because you looked like you needed someone to notice you," he said gently, and I wanted to be that person. His words touched something deep inside me. For so long, I had felt invisible, as though I moved through life unnoticed, unseen. Yet with him, I felt as if every part of me mattered. We began to meet often, though we never made plans. It was as if we were drawn to the same place at the same time, two shadows finding each other again and again. Each meeting left me with a feeling I could not name, a mixture of joy, fear, and a quiet ache, as though I already knew how fragile it all was. One night, as we sat in the cafe while the rain tapped gently against the windows, he said, "Do you ever feel like some moments are meant to happen? Like the world pushes two people together, no matter what?" I nodded slowly. "Yes," I whispered. "I feel that now." His eyes softened, and he reached across the table, brushing his fingers lightly against mine. It was the simplest touch, yet it felt as if the entire room faded away, leaving only the two of us. From that night, everything between us deepened. We walked the city streets until late hours, sharing stories about our pasts, our dreams, our fears. He told me he often felt alone, even in crowded places, but with me, the loneliness disappeared, and I admitted that I had been afraid of opening my heart, afraid of being hurt. But with him, I wanted to try. Days turned into weeks, and the world outside no longer seemed so heavy. I laughed more. I dreamed more. I let myself believe, for the first time in a long time, that happiness was not just something for other people. It could be mine too. The end.